Hey booktubers! It is good to see you guys again. It's been a while. Today I am doing a book review on H.G. Wells's The War of the Worlds. This is a classic. It's almost 120 years old story. I kind of find that amazing considering what is in these. This is the perfect example of authors that thought up things in their imagination and people that read it in childhood made some of those fantastical things come true. So, War of the Worlds, like I said, it's a classic. Pretty sure everybody's heard of it. There's been a million different reimaginings of the same story. There was a terrible Tom Cruise movie that everybody saw for some reason. Even I saw it, I admit it, and it was terrible. Don't watch it if you haven't seen it. There, in the 30s, there was the radio show that it was Orson Welles, ironically, that did a radio adaptation. It takes place actually in New Jersey. People apparently freaked out and thought that it was actually happening. So there was a big, he had to do a public apology for the panic that he caused. But so this story has had a lot of impact on popular culture for over 100 years. And I feel like that's amazing. Especially since really the book itself, not to be too harsh on something that was so well done, it's kind of a slow book, quite frankly. I can't decide if I give it 4 or 5 stars. I actually just noticed that on my blog post that I wrote about this, that will be linked below in the description. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars, but in my Goodreads, I gave it 4 stars. So, average it out to about 4.5 stars, I guess. Okay, so basic plot of War of the Worlds. Mars is an ancient and dying planet. The beings there are way more advanced than we are here, and they basically see us like animals. We're basically in the Stone Age compared to them. And so they're just going to take over our planet because theirs is dying and ours is so lush and fertile and blah, blah, blah. So they come, and they don't come all at once. They, come one pod at a time. They crash land in England when they come. And so the entire story is told in first person. The main character is actually never named. It feels like you're listening to a story. I say this in my blog, but it's just, I can't think of a better description. It kind of feels like you are listening to some old guy sitting in one of those, men-only clubs that they used to have that, there's high-back leather chairs and way too much alcohol. And he's just telling you a really good fish story, but it's really entertaining. And, I can listen, I would pay an old English gentleman to read this book to me. It would be worth the money. That's the entire plot. That is it. It just follows this guy. He's trying to run away from the Martians. Like I said, it's kind of a slow book, quite frankly. He's not, directly trying to beat them in any way. I don't really know how to describe it, really. Other than the pace of the book and the ending are really the only 2 things that I didn't really like. I'm going to talk about the ending later, and I will let you know when that happens so that if you haven't read the book, you won't get spoiled for it. Those are the only 2 things that I didn't like. Things that I loved. Like I said, it's told in first person, and it's told well in first person. Yeah, it's a slow story, but I didn't even notice that I didn't know the main character's name until halfway through the book. I think that is very well done. I think that you don't see that kind of writing anymore. I've just gotten into starting to read classic books lately, and I'm finding that obviously it's a completely different writing style. A lot happens just in language in general in 100 years. It just happens. But I think that we have almost lost a little bit in some of the changes that have been made in how we speak and how we tell stories. And even as much as we've expanded and educated ourselves more, I don't know, it's lost some finesse, I feel like. What was another thing that I liked? The Martians. Today, Martians are the little gray men. Let's be honest. Like, that's what you picture when people talk about aliens and Martians. In this book, basically, they're like squid people. Vampiric squid people. I love that he makes them. They are sustained by drinking blood. And I kind of love that he does that because it just makes this, like, horrific happening even more horrific. Like, not only are you being invaded, but if you are not immediately killed, you will probably be kept for dinner. Like, they're going to eat you. And, like, I like that touch. It's a very, I don't know, I think it just adds a little something to. Another thing I loved, like I was saying before, this book is a perfect example of devices that were far ahead of the author's time being described in a book and little boys and girls reading the book and making them actual things. In this book, the Martian's main weapon, I think the most impactful weapon, is his heat ray. That is like a light heat ray. It's a laser. He has lasers. He wrote this in 1897. We weren't even into cars yet at that point. At least I honestly cannot say right this second when cars were invented and became mainstream. But it wasn't then. There was still a few years. We didn't have planes yet. We're not in cars yet. And he's making lasers. Lasers! And I love that. I love that this was one of the books that inspired someone to make something really cool. And it's something that is in, I feel like, a lot of science fiction. No, I feel like that is the main guns for anything that I can think of in science fiction. Like, the aliens always have laser guns. Like, somebody always has some sort of a laser gun or light gun or something. Like, energy weapons are the weapons of the future, apparently. And they always have been, and it may have been all because H.G. Wells put it in his book, and some little boy or girl learned about it and read it and loved it and made it a reality. And I love that. I admittedly got this specifically because it was a classic. The only thing that I knew about it was that the radio show happened, which, by the way, I will link it down below because I actually did find a YouTube video that has the entire broadcast. Fun to listen to. Like, it's very 1930. It's like, now you're probably going to be like, people believed this? And it's going to sound really ridiculous too, because you're like, obviously this is not true. And I agree, but not being in that time, it's a completely different mindset, I guess. I personally think that CNN could put a picture of an alien on their evening broadcast tonight, and people would start criticizing the CGI and the edit work. There would be no beliefs, and apparently there was a panic over someone just talking about it over the radio. So I think that's an interesting little, like, it's a historical event. Like, this is in history books about this panic and this radio event. Like, I think that is every newscaster's dream, to be forever in history books for something that, because people are ridiculous. That's why you're in the history books. Anyway, every time I think about it, I just can't even really, I just think it's funny that happened. So, anyway, I also read some reviews online that I guess people didn't really like it. And I can see why. Like I said, it's kind of a slow book. This guy is mostly just, like, he's just trying, he drops his wife off at this other town with her brother, and he goes back to his town, which is, like, right where the first aliens dropped down at and killed an entire field full of people. And he goes back to take back the cart that he used to move his wife and maid to this other town, which I don't think I would have taken the cart back, but whatever. And then he realizes that that was a poor decision, and the rest of the book is him trying to get back to his wife. There are a few chapters where he goes to the perspective of his brother who was in London, like in the center of London. And that is another thing that I loved about this, is that even though he goes to a different perspective, it's still a first-person perspective. And he makes it clear, and he actually breaks that fourth wall where he's talking directly to the readers. And he's saying, okay, I'm going to move to my brother now because this is what was happening in London, and you'll want to hear it. And then when he comes back, he talks to us again, and he's like, you know what? I previously told you this in this account of this happening, and blah blah blah. I don't have it down exactly, but like I like how he breaks that fourth wall because it gives that storyteller vibe even more. And like I said, I that was probably one of my favorite things about it, is that I felt like somebody was sitting down and we could just be having a drink and they would be telling me this story that I, like, in your heart, you know is not true. But, like, you secretly kind of want it to be true because it was such an adventure for the person telling it to you. I liked the book. 4.5 stars. I mean, I'll probably actually read it again. And I kind of wish that this was the type of book that would be on literature lists for a class. Like, if this had been on my AP list of books, like, I totally would have read it back when I was in school, but it wasn't that I know of. Things that I didn't really see in the book, but apparently are a thing. This book apparently is about British imperialism and taking people over. And once I heard British imperialism, I kind of just stopped reading because I was like, I don't care. But, which sounds terrible as a critical reader and resident of planet Earth who should know her history, but I guess it just, I'm too many generations into being an American for British imperialism to have a direct impact on me. I realize that it does because of the genesis of America, but as soon as I read it, like, British imperialism on this review, I was like, oh, I don't care. So, but apparently that has something to do with it. Like, there's a lot of political things happening in this book, apparently. I mostly just read about a guy running around South England trying not to get laser blasted into oblivion. So, there's that. So, yeah. So, 4.5 stars out of 5. Only because I can't decide if it would be 4 stars or 5 stars. Now, I have one spoiler that I just have to talk about it. So if you don't want to know the ending of the book, stop watching this now. I warn you now. This is a spoiler. I'm going to talk about the conclusion to this book. This might just be because I am definitely, I'm an Avengers fan. It doesn't actually matter if the movie is good or not. I love superhero movies. People always rag on, the Green Lantern, how that one was stupid. Elektra, how that one was stupid. The Ben Affleck, the blind dude that was actually a superhero that I cannot remember his name either. Watch that one. I loved it. I love superhero movies. In the book, things blow up all the time. Mostly because of the lasers. Heat rays. Whatever. They do not effectively fight back to the Martians. There is no main contingent or even one person who goes and takes out the Martians. They just die on their own because of diseases, which I kind of find funny because historically when lands get conquered, it's not the conquerors who die from the diseases, it's the conquered. See Native American history, which It's terrible, but, like, case in point, seriously. Like, when new people come, they bring all their whacked out disease and plague. That's what happens, historically, everywhere. Like, Easter Island, I just saw this thing on History Channel about Easter Island, how there was a giant, like, it was almost genocide, because the English came, and they conquered, and they brought all their disease. Like, that's what happened. Apparently, Martians don't have diseases, but they are very susceptible to our diseases, because they're vampiric, so they're literally mainlining all of our germs, and they just kind of die. And nobody really realizes that they're dead. And even the main character has a moment of, wait, that's it? Like, that's all there is? They're dead? Like, they're gone? And I understand that it might be a generational thing where, like, I'm expecting the big heroic chase, or, like, that somebody's gonna have to give up something to get their home back and to save the planet, and that cities are gonna be destroyed, but, like, there will be, like, the one girl or guy that's standing there in the middle, and they're just like, ha! Like, we won! You lost! And this is what we did, and I shut off your head, or something. Like, there's always, like, that big, like, climactic moment where somebody is actively solving the problem. Nothing we're doing is working, and so we're all running away, but then they die on their own. I don't know. Like, it was an anticlimactic ending. Like, it was just kind of like, Mars is here, Mars is here, Mars is here, and then they're dead. Nah. I needed more than that. And like I said, it's over 100 years old. That, like, it's 120 years old. It's a 120-year-old story, and they didn't even have lasers or planes or cars, and I understand that, and I realize that this is, like, I think that this was the first book where we're getting invaded from outer space, and I understand that being the first doesn't always have all the cool bells and whistles, and, like, but I don't know. I think the expectations that we have now for things like this did have an impact on how I viewed the ending. I know it's terrible, but I just didn't like the ending because of that. Like, the ending really did bug me. Anyway, so I still, like I said, that's why I go between 4 stars and 5 stars, because I'm like, what? Like, that was really, like, it's almost a cop-out, but, like, you don't want to say it. I don't know. So, H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds, read it, love it. That's all I got. I recommend it. I do recommend it. The ending, wasn't impressed. And I feel, okay, so this is the thing, like, even knowing that it's 120 years old, and knowing that I did not like it, like, I feel, because I love books so much, and because I have such respect for his writing, I really do, I respect his writing, because I loved his writing, just looking at just the mechanics of his writing, and like I said, I think that he did an excellent job of doing a first person, and not everybody can pull that up. Very few people can pull off a first person, and he did it very well. Very well. So, like, I have that respect for him, but I feel like I'm betraying him in not giving it 5 stars, but I can't. It's 4 star. 4.5. It's 4.5 stars. Because aliens just died. I don't like that. Anyway, if you have anything to add to this review, definitely shoot me a comment. I'd love to hear from everybody. Down below, you're going to find the link I said to the YouTube video that has the full broadcast of the 1938 War of the Worlds radio drama that went down. And my Goodreads is down there, and my blog, if you want to check that out, is also down there. And I would love to hear from any of you. But I will see you guys another time.